Good morning. Hello. I'm feeling very heartened and encouraged by an article I've just read that's come out today in the Guardian newspaper by Felicity Lawrence. I'll put the link below. The title is Lucy Letby, Killer or Coincidence? ? Why some experts question the evidence. Exclusive. Doubts raised over safety of convictions of nurse found guilty of murdering babies. And then there's a picture of, there's Lucy's face in the background, or her eyes, and, you'll see it anyway, but the scales are sort of tipped to one side. I think that's not an accident in the image that's in front of her. There's so much in this article, I could read out a few bits of it. I'll just start off, and I would have liked to have seen it mentioned in there about Lucy's grievance process that she took out against the consultants, in which those consultants were threatened with being reported to the GMC by the trust, by Tony Chambers. They were hauled over the coals, and they were shamed, as it were, rightfully so for their bullying, and they were made to apologise, and that was the trigger to bring the police in. That was the trigger. That was the narcissistic rage that they felt, the narcissistic wounding that they felt from that was the trigger to bring in the police. Had Lucy not brought that grievance, there would have been no case, there would have been no investigation, there would have been some medical negligence claims against the hospital, as there have been outside of the scope of this case anyway, and the trust would have paid out X number of millions of pounds, as they've been doing in other cases outside of this. Never have heard of Lucy Letby on the national stage, as it were, or on the world stage. If she'd have just gone, but she was fighting, she was honourable, and she was fighting for her good name and her, because there was nothing she'd done wrong, either intentionally or unintentionally. She was more competent as a nurse than those bastard consultants were as doctors. And we know that. We've got a lot of evidence for that. But there's so much that's really encouraging here. And what's encouraging is that there's so many more people involved. Some of them don't want to give their names, and there's a story that tells you the story in that they're frightened of being, as Mark McDonald said, they'll be crushed by the GMC. They won't work again. The NHS stroke GMC complex will smash them to pieces. But there's some people, very brave people here. The one particular that stands out is Dr. I want to find the name here. It goes over so many aspects of it. You've just got to read it, really. Dr. Svelina Dimitrova, an NHS consultant neonatologist. Oh yeah, just fantastic from her. And then there's a chap called Roger Norwich, medico-legal expert. Our own Richard Gill. I say our own because he's been fighting this from the beginning and was involved in helping two other nurses overturn their miscarriages of justice in Holland and in Italy. So there's so much here. I don't know whether, I'm not going to read it all through, but it's just, I really recommend you read this article today. It's just it's out there now, and this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. There's a number of formal complaints have gone to the GMC about Evans, about this fraud, psychopathic fraud. As I say, I would have liked to have seen the, but that's all to come about Lucy's grievance process as a very strong motivation. I know that Felicity Lawrence, in presenting this piece, didn't want to move into opinions in any way, and I'm not saying that she should have done in that, but just to have had that in there as the lead up to it, so people can draw their own inferences from it. Oh right, well, yeah, she's that's the line of events here, that that she brought the grievance process, and those consultants, well, they wanted their own back, didn't they? There was, that's when they went nuclear on this. They would have left it. They would have left it. How do we know they would have left it? Because we know they would have left it because, i.e., they wouldn't have gone to the police, because Lucy was off the ward from July 2016, and she was going to be coming back the next spring. So in all that intervening period, they haven't gone to the police, have they? They're so sure of crimes being committed, they haven't gone to the police in all that time, because they never would have done. They never would have done. It's only because Lucy Letby was coming back and they'd been forced to apologise, and they couldn't stick that. So it would have been good to see that, and hopefully in further articles that will be made plain as the triggering point for the police to become involved. Because you've got this very interesting situation now where it's being made public on X or Twitter. John Arms being called on this. He's saying, well, it's going to be one of two things here. You virtually, quote unquote, virtually caught a person trying to murder a baby red-handed, but you did nothing about it, or it didn't happen, or you didn't virtually catch anybody doing anything. You believed she was trying to murder the baby, and you said nothing. You did nothing. Did nothing about it, and he's legally obliged to have reported that at the time, if you believe that. But it's all backfilling. It's all backfilling. It's all backfilling. I'm not going to do a long video about this, but I want to get back to the Rachel Aviv article and complete that, really. But reading through it in videos and commenting on it. Well done, Richard Gill, and all the other people mentioned here, and well done, Felicity Lawrence. Fantastic to read this article today. It's the beginning. It's the beginning. It's the beginning. This is great. This is brilliant. You've got other people here about this, criticising the absurd misuse of statistics. John O'Quigley, the professor of statistical science at University College London, saying that all the shift chart, that chart with all the X's showing when Lucy Letby was on duty, he says here, all the shift chart shows is that when Lucy Letby was on duty, Lucy Letby was on duty. Exactly. Well done, that man. So many others. Other people don't want to give their names. There's an interesting bit about the Jane Horden report. Maybe I'll come back to that, in which a further neonatologist looked at, who didn't want to give their name, off the back of the Jane Horden report, didn't want to give their name, in respect of Jane Horden's recommendation to look into 4 of the deaths. This was an internal requested report from the Trust, Jane Horden report. She didn't have time, she said, to do a complete investigation. Another neonatologist, not named, took it up, did an investigation, obviously didn't find any deliberate harm there. And Evans says in this Guardian report, I disagree, that I just disagree with her findings. And they keep saying in this, Evans and Bowen's quoted as well, who just simply marked Evans's trash work. It wasn't work, was it? It was a fraud. It was collusion. It was obvious collusion with the police and the consultants. It has to be collusion, because I understand again why Felicity Lawrence couldn't start putting her own opinions on this, or because it just needs. I think she's hit it just at the right level here. I think it would have been good to put in the grievance process as a matter of fact, because that's not opinion. That is a matter of fact that process took place, and a matter of fact that Tony Chambers threatened those 4 consultants with a GMC. That's a big deal for them. And they were going to be having to work with a nurse that had, in their minds, caused that, created that that narcissistic wounding against them. That's what they were going to have to be doing, so they weren't going to be having any of that. What was I saying before? Here we are, Dr. Jane Horden, lead consultant neonatologist at the Royal Free Hospital, looked at the cluster of deaths and collapses. It says here, this is a bit I'll read out from the Felicity Lawrence Guardian article. But leaked documents seen by the Guardian suggest that in 13 of the cases Horden reviewed, she found the babies had received suboptimal care, and the death/collapses explained, but may have been prevented with different care. Well, exactly. This is what the guy, the neonatologist from the level 3 unit, said about one of the babies. Suboptimal care. I think it was either from Liverpool Women's Hospital or Alderhay. The guy said when the baby was when baby K was transferred, that was what was in the notes at the level 3 hospital, that the care received at COCH, Countess of Chester Hospital, had been suboptimal. Everyone's saying it. And yet all that disappears because this freakazoid Evans comes on the scene and invents and makes a murderer in collusion, vital to understand this, in collusion with the police and the consultants. What I mean by that is he was told which case. He's been given 32 cases. How has he made the selection? How has he made the appropriate selection to avoid stating that a death or a crash is unexpected and unexplained and there's deliberate harm when Lucy's not on duty? How has he managed to do that? How has he managed to do that without inside information, without that process being corrupted? How has he managed to avoid doing that? He hasn't just been lucky. He's not been lucky. He knew what he had to do. They got together, they conspired. Those 3 elements conspired. I know Felicity Lawrence can't write that. It's my inference. I believe it 100%. That's what they've done. We might never be able to prove it, but it's proved by the construction of what they've done. It's proved by that. Anyway, more on that another time. But I mean, this is something I've said for 10 months now, actually. Just as a side thing, there's another 2 recent We Need to Talk About Lucy Letby podcasts on Spotify. The links are I'll put the link below. And please read this article today. It's very, very heartening in terms of truth and justice. To begin to turn this, the old figurative thing about turning a massive ocean liner around, it's been going in the direction of, fully in the direction of injustice and distortion of reality and corruption, and it's being turned around towards truth and justice, and that's it. And it started obviously with the Rachel Aviv article and what other people have been saying on Roots, but in the public arena, in the larger public arena, it's beginning to creak its way around to the right direction. All will be revealed. Perhaps all won't be revealed publicly, but it's good. This is definitely a good, a very good, solid beginning. Well done, Felicity Lawrence, and admiration for all those who engaged with her in this, in her investigation that brought this this article to public light today, and especially those that put their names to their views and opinions. And there's a whole bunch, there's a slew, whatever a slew is, a group of complaints gone into the GMC about this bastard Evans. Thank you. There are other forces working as well. There are other forces working beyond the physical. I'll leave it at that. Anyway, thank you. Thanks for listening. Bye.